Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we get into the details of the Budget Implementation Act, it is important to take a step back to assess the philosophy that has informed the budget itself. The big picture on the budget rests on a single question. Is the government a player or a referee in the arena we know as Canada? Of course, this arena isn't hosting a game of hockey or soccer. This is a game of factions. This is a game of competing interests. That is, a game of competing private interests. Mr. Speaker, the government as a referee would take no sides. The referee gets out of the way. He draws the lines of arena and he lays down the rules that will allow the best players and teams to win. This is the North Star of the conservative worldview. Unfortunately, the Red Liberal government sees itself as a player. It is picking winners and losers through that age-old enemy of human progress, central planning and interventionism. Because the Liberals see themselves as a player, they have always been stacking the game in their favor. They are team asset inflation. They are team rentier economy. They are team feudalism. The Liberals do not believe in productive economy that works for hardworking Canadians. One of the chief ways team feudalism has empowered their rentier economy with unending asset inflation is through immigration. The immigration files has been noticeably absent from the debate on the budget and its implementation. So please allow me to give it some floor time. Mr. Speaker, affordability for Canadians is a core conservative focus. As a member of the Standing Committee of the Citizenship and Immigration, I have learned over the past several months how this immigration file is deeply affecting housing, healthcare, and employment for everyday Canadians. The Liberals admit on page 95 in the budget that, I quote, "The pace of arrivals began to exceed Canada's capacity to absorb and support newcomers," unquote. On the same page, the Liberals further admits that in 2018, 3.3% of Canada's population were temporary residents. By 2024, that number had more than doubled to 7.5%, an unprecedented rate of growth that put pressure on housing supply and the healthcare system. These expressions in percentages don't do the raw numbers justice. Let me take one of the most devastating years on record, that is 2023, and allow me to repeat the figures. We issued over 681,000 study permits to international students. We issued over 761,000 work permits through the International Mobility Program. We issued over 183,000 work permits through the Temporary Foreign Worker Program. I grant that there is some overlap between these categories, as a single person can count under two categories. Nonetheless, we are in a situation where our economy has been flooded at the latest an extra million foreigners in any given year. The rapid growth of temporary residents overall in 2022 and 2023 contributed to Canada having the highest annual population growth rate since 1957. These figures are madness when you realize that over 30 years ago, we used to admit around 30,000 international students per year. Team feudalism across the aisle knows that the game they are playing, just as they engage in deficit spending to map more units of currency to a stagnant suite of goods and services. Team feudalism has flooded an increasing number of people into Canada against a roughly steady state housing and job situations. What does team feudalism produce in both situations? They produce their time-honored goal of asset inflation under a rentier model. The Liberals have issued both the Temporary Foreign Worker Program and the International Mobility Program as a business model to keep wages artificially low, to keep paper profits high, and to price Canadians out of the job market. The interventionist red Liberals picked their winners, and they have chosen to give a discretionary government subsidy to unproductive rentier businesses that can only function on the modern equivalent of slave labor. Mr. Speaker, I wish this was the end of my immigration critique, but there is another unfortunate layer. I don't know whether this is a tragedy or a comedy. We know, for instance, that nearly 50,000 holders of foreign student visas were not studying at any Canadian university or college, but rather working and attempting to settle here. This finding is confusing unless we realize that we have not been matching our international student intake to our labor market needs. The main field of choice for international students has been business studies, and at the college level, nearly 50% of all international students are enrolled in business programs. In the 2022 to 2023 academic year, there were over 90,000 international students enrolled in college business programs and close to 60,000 international students in university business programs. Mr. Speaker, this is not the labor force we need to build Canada strong. A promise was made to many of these students that this would put them on the immigration track in Canada, when the simple fact was that there were not enough permanent residence slots to accommodate the huge volume of students we have let in the country. What conclusions are we now led to? Team feudalism used international students not as a value add to our skill mix, but as a form of quantitative easing to inflate the assets of their rentier economy. They just needed more bodies in the country to boost up rent and housing prices while suppressing the wages of hardworking Canadians. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals don't represent Team Canada. They don't represent the average hardworking Canadian. They represent the most ancient feudalism with a fake paper economy bolstered by something that very nearly approximate a slave system. While over 2 million Canadians visit food banks each month, where 700,000 of those are kids, the Liberals work every day to inflate asset prices, whether through deficit spending or letting any warm body pass into country to keep those rents sky high. Team feudalism has the audacity to run a $78 billion deficit with over $90 billion in new spending. That equates to over $5,000 per Canadian household, and yet still say they wish to build Canada strong. Mr. Speaker, the question is, strong for whom? The Liberals have not been playing as a referee in the great game of faction. They have chosen to play as team asset inflation, and they have made us all poor for this decision. Young Canadians can't get the jobs they need, the housing they deserve, or the healthcare services they are entitled to. With money printed working overdrive, Mr. Speaker, what future does Canada have under the Liberal feudal regime? I don't see a future here, and it worries me. Thank you.